Pretty excited to be joined by Vanessa and Edie from Profit First Accounting on the Peninsula in Melbourne. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Well.
Excellent. So let's get kicked off. Like for anyone that's potentially on the call or watching this as a recording today that don't or that haven't had the pleasure of meeting you lovely ladies before, just introduce for everyone like what it is specifically you guys do.
Well, we started doing tax and conventional accounting and conventional bookkeeping, which is all to do with, regulations and you must do it this way. Yeah. And then we met you and then we saw Profit First. So because it's more behavioural, we completely changed what we were looking at, looked at what we sort of really wanted in here rather than the academic stuff and said, yep, we're going to do that. And we've pretty much delved into the Profit First methodology really thoroughly. I'm now certified and accredited, which has changed our everything really. We don't look at people when they walk in the door as the way we used to. We look at whether or not we've got something that's going to help them, but also are they the audience that we want to be working with is. And where before I might have grieved over the loss of a client or two because, they're leaving me. Well, now we just go, yep, move for the next one. Because if they're not working on their figures at the same level as we are, then we've got our time better invested with somebody that needs that.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think that the accountancy and the financial space is ripe for innovation and disruption. And question I've got a couple of questions, but first one, do you guys get offended when you hear how people typically talk about accountants? And the reason I asked that is I was on a podcast episode earlier today with a lovely lady, and she said that she came from a financial background and she was kind of having a bit of banter, as I was, about people coming from a financial background. And the reason being is I think typically accountants and, financial planners, accountants more so though, have not got the best, reputation when it comes to actually helping business owners. And what I mean by that is that typically, part of it is the education of business owners because they're misconstrued that accountants should be looking forward in the business. Like accountants should be there to actually help me grow my business. And the scary thing is a lot of accountants are getting into business growth, coaching and consulting at the moment, which is not necessarily a bad thing. However, what business owners first must understand is accountants really help you to look backwards into your business. Typically,
we write history.
Yeah, looking back into your business, working how you can save money in your tax returns. And this is where I think there's a space that you guys have moved into, and what the Profit First methodology stands for is something completely different because it has that element as more so a regulation requirement of business. But majority of the focus is looking forwards. So can you kind of share with us a little bit about how that particularly works?
100%. When I first jumped onto one of your webinars, it was one of Keith's webinars. And he said, I hope that there's no accountants on this webinar because I hate accountants. And I wrote back straight in the chat box, well, Keith, you haven't met us yet. So
and that's true.
Maybe you should hold your opinions on accountants back. And that was a touchy point for me. And then I thought, well, actually, he's probably got a point. If you've had a bad experience with an accountant before, that is probably going to be your first judgment of an accountant.
Yeah.
But
I've never fitted into the accounting box from the traditional perspective because I'm just not like any other accountant that you'll ever find. And I'm pleased about that. I don't want to be the very stiff, proper, no, you're going to do it this way. This is the only way you're going to do it. And here's your money. Give me a bill. And it's never been like that for me because people don't actually relax. They don't tell you what you need to know. And I found that I had a lot of clients that did give me what they thought I needed to know. And we've actually gotten way down under much lower and deeper levels of information to get a better answer.
Well, I think there's a real opportunity because people technically, like they have to go to an accountant, right? To get their tax and their BAS and things like that signed off. And I think there's a real opportunity because you guys and other accountants have the opportunity to turn the required into something remarkable, which is certainly what you guys are doing and what's been shown in your growth as well. Because, we have to go to account to get those things done. Yet if you're able to offer a service that actually helps them far beyond just the required and makes it remarkable and actually allows them greater insight and clarity, that's a complete game changer. I guess I want to preface too, like any accountants or bookkeepers that are watching this, like no hate mail. Like we're just having an open and frank conversation. There's plenty of shit coaches out there too, and I'm happy to put my hand up and agree that the coaching industry has been given a bad name, as a lot of other things has as well. But if you are an accountant doing a good job, like kudos to you. If you are an accountant that's actively going out there looking for ways to serve your clients, kudos to you. So how is it specifically that you guys have gone out there to serve your clients in a remarkable way as opposed to a required way?
I've always done the compliance work, which is literally you do your bookkeeping from the point that Vanessa used to give it to me, and then you take it through the compliance work, you lodge the returns, you are normally directed to reduce tax like you mentioned. But we also say it really depends what you want out of this interview, because if you want something that is conventional and to reduce your tax, our advice is going to be quite different to if you want something that is going to drive your business forward. And in the historical sense, we never did that because the pressure's always on to get the next client through, the next compliance work done, and just get everybody legal and up to date. Yeah. So when we started doing this, we literally started looking at what can we do to help a business owner look to the future. Because with Vanessa's work, she does the stuff every week. She does the stuff every day. She sees what the transactions are. Whereas my work used to look back over a period of up to 18 months, which, you can't fix things that have happened 18 months ago. Yeah. You've got to be on them straight away. So that's why when we got married, it worked really well, because she could actually see something going wrong and she would say, hey, this doesn't look right. And so then when we started Profit First, it's a whole different way of looking at money. So instead of being compliance and all that, that's gone. It's all money.
When we have our first onboarding meeting, that's obviously where we ask the client exactly what they're after. If they want us to handhold them every day or every week, that's exactly what we do. We set them weekly tasks that they need to complete, and then we follow through at the other end. Then we have weekly meetings with them or monthly meetings, depending on what sort of package that they're on. Our price is a fixed price, so they don't get surprise bills here, there, and everywhere. They know that that's a fixed weekly fee, and then all of their services are included in that. So they get unlimited support for what they're paying for, which they love.
They also get to find out that we provide a service that's not available very readily, because we find out where they want to go and how they want to get there and what we can add to that equation.
Yeah. The average business owner, and I'd go as far to say that 90, if not 95% of business owners aren't across their finances. Not any way at all the way that they should be to be growing a profitable company. And I honestly believe that the profit first methodology should be a requirement for all business owners to manage cash. Like, it is just so simple and so easy to use. And, you look back at, your elders who used to get their pay and divide it in amongst envelopes. So they had this envelope was for groceries, and this envelope was for gas, and this envelope was for household bills. Yep. And it meant that they could only spend what was available to them in those required envelopes. And what I like particularly about the way that this works in business is that, I meet so many people that show profit on paper, yet have got no cash in the bank. And with this methodology, you've got the ability to actually have cash in the bank, even if you're not showing profit on paper, which is quite a game changer.
The reversal.
Yeah.
That was going to be my next point. A lot of clients come to us and they say, I've got this huge tax bill because I made a huge profit on paper, but I have no money. I have no money to pay this tax bill. Well, we're almost at the point now, especially within our own business, that our profit and loss almost matches exactly what's in our bank account.
Yeah.
So it is real. It's a real
time.
Real time.
At a glance banking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a phenomenal methodology. Let's change gears a little bit. Like, I'm curious to kind of understand, prior to you guys joining the Game Changers, you were turning over $100,000 a year, a couple $100,000 a year. Vanessa, I know you were working ridiculous hours to the point that you would often fall asleep in the office and not get home to see your kids. I remember interviewing you guys at about like 9 months, I think 8 or 9 months in the program. At that stage, you had more than tripled your income, significantly reduced your time, spending more time with the family. Last time I spoke to you, I think you guys had 6x'd your average fee. Like typically accountants have, you know, the annual fee they charge for tax return at $400 or $500 or whatever the case may be. And you guys, the average fee at the last time we spoke to you guys was well above $2,000 per client.
I think our average fee now for a business is sitting up around 24,000 a year.
Right. So you've gone from an average of $400 and something to $24,000, which is, I don't even know how many percent that is, but it's extraordinary.
Yeah.
It changes the level of service completely. It's not compliance, it's everything.
100%. And it changes your ability to do business differently as well. Let's kind of wind back to 12 or so months ago. Where were you at, and like, what was your mindset or what was your mentality entering into the program?
Well, I didn't know there was a difference between mindset and what was going on within our business. Now I know that there's a great difference between the two, and that your mindset needs to be right. And if it's not, your business isn't going to go where it needs to go. Yeah. So
I think that the funniest part was when we niched for the first time, and Michael said, "So what do you really want?" And Vanessa said, and I quote, "I want to work no more than 40 hours a week. I only want to do 2 nights a week, and I prefer to have one of my days on the weekend to myself." And that was such an eye-opener, because he said, "What? Do you really want that? No, start again. What do you really want?" And of course, that was such a different way of thinking of things, because when you work in this business, there are peaks and troughs. And when it's busy, you don't get any time because you've got to fit so many through.
Under the traditional model, under the old model.
And if you double your prices, you'll still get the same amount of money, but you'll get a bit more space. But we didn't understand that. We didn't think that was the right thing to do, because it's not fair. Well, what is fair? If you're not providing the service, it's people get what they pay for, and if you don't give them the option of what they really need, then they're going to pay for something that's only going to marginally help them.
But I looked at Edie and I'm like, is this guy batshit crazy? Like, does he actually think we can work less and make more money?
and since then, of course, we did.
And I'm scratching my head thinking, how is this going to work? And he's like, okay, so you need to change your structure. Why are you charging hourly still? And I'm like, looked at Edie, I'm like, why are we? And we're like, well, everyone else sort of does it this way. And I'm like, but we're not everyone else. We can change it. We don't have to run by everyone else's model.
One of the biggest mistakes business owners make is pricing themselves based on the competition in the marketplace. And it's like, if you're doing that, you're forever like looking at the arse end of the competition. You're never getting a chance to innovate above and beyond them. And I think in business, the greatest innovations come when there's pressure applied. Like when we have to fight ourselves out of a corner, that's when we innovate and create something new.
Well, that was actually the innovation that I was about to say. We went to a technology expo together, and we thought we'll have a nice day out of the office. We didn't really actually go there with the intention of absolutely blasting our brains and changing everything we did. We thought we'd go in and we'd have a look and see what's available. And we saw all these different technologies, Receipt Bank and Asana and Carbon, and there were so many of them. And we chatted to each of the presenters, and they literally showed us step by step how they were using each of these products. And we just looked at each other and said, we can achieve so much more in a day just by implementing these technology advances. And that's what we've been introducing to our clients. They don't know they exist. They don't know how it's going to help them. And the fact that you can run, well, we've discovered that we can run a fairly thriving office with less staff because of those technologies. Yeah.
This is where I see a lot of businesses get caught in the trap that they believe that they need to sacrifice profits up front to grow. And although I do believe that you need to sacrifice profits, my belief of what that looks like and typical business owners is different. Like, I believe that you always need to be profitable and you always need to be banking cash and building a nest egg. Like, I think that every business needs to be operating to where they have at least 10% of their annual income. So if you do $1 million a year, at least 100 grand in the bank as operational expenses for a rainy day fund. And if you're not at that position, you know, you're too staff heavy, or you've got too many expenses. And that's where I guess the methodology, more so particularly the allocation template, comes about to show you where your business should be sitting.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And we found that allocation percentage actually works really well. and the staggering of the different turnover levels, it just works. It's been tried and tested.
So when you came into the program, the mindset was like, oh, these guys batshit crazy. Like, we're going to be able to make more money and work less hours. That doesn't even seem possible based on the past. But how did you kind of enter in? And what did you notice changed around, like, let's talk habits first, because it wasn't your mindset necessarily that changed instantly. Your mindset was getting the opportunity to create or to view a different point of life, but it was your habits that started to change that created different results. So what was it that you did specifically, or what did you notice about yourself entering in that was different to the way you were doing business beforehand?
I think we started the task audit first to look at what we were doing, look at how much time we were wasting and how many things Vanessa could do. My work was fairly stable, but Vanessa's, a lot of it was quite repetitive. And once we looked at the task audit, we realised you're flittering from emails, answering phones at, you know, ridiculous hours like 7 a.m, responding to messages because someone wanted you right there and then. So then we started batching the work, looking at how to use the time of the day more effectively, with us not starting in the office till 10 and wanting to leave by 5. So how do we fit everything into that time frame, batch it, dispatch it, delegate it where you can. And we did a lot of that sort of preliminary work to look at what our business constructed of.
And also using the tribe. So using the Facebook group, showing up to Sherps every single week. Like, I didn't miss one for at least 6 months. I went every single week and asked any question I needed to ask, listened to everyone else. Because even when you don't think you have a question, listening to someone else's question will bring up a question that you didn't know that you had. So even that, just the stability of having something to do every week and setting yourself that routine, then led to routine within the business.
Also, the changing of our goal setting, that really made a difference to how we started looking at our daily tasks.
Yeah, we never had goals before that.
We didn't actually have our parameters, targets, growth charted in our minds. We just thought, oh, we'll do what comes in the door, like most accountants do. And once we'd actually talked to Michael again, that McNiche person, he started telling us, so who do we actually want to work for? And we'd never looked at it like that. Who can we help that's going to put money in our bank account, but what we do is going to put money in their bank account? So what market do we want to serve? And it wasn't the people we'd been looking after at all. We didn't want to do our returns anymore. We wanted to actually see the growth of, because Vanessa does a lot of work with tradies, and a tradie is typically limited by his number of hours. So by doing what we were doing, we were actually able to help them quadruple their incomes, and then we became an investment and not just a compliance cost.
Yeah. So let's break down a few key distinctions. So first and foremost, number one is that you question your current model. Like, you're able to see that your current model was maxed out. Like, you're working ridiculous hours and making no money. And unless you threw more hours at it, there wasn't going to be an ability to grow. Now, not every business starts off that way, but that's how you guys, started off. So you question, well, this is the current model. It's not working. Where do we want to get to? Which you set some clear defined goals around, moving from where you were to where you wanted to be. Question then, well, does this vehicle, being the current model of the business, actually get us to where we want to go? And then went through and essentially audited time, which is something we recommend for everyone, to then understand where are we wasting time, to start to kind of leverage some of that wasted time back to make some more money, to create some space to be able to then innovate the current model. And from that, you change the habit around showing up weekly, those coaching sessions, rain, hail or shine, asking what you needed to ask, but also listening in on the other people, which you were saying then created a discipline and a habit within the execution of your business.
Exactly.
Correct?
And that led to the systemization.
Yeah. Okay. So the next kind of phase that you guys started going through then is systemization. Is that the next phase you went into?
Yeah. Because then we found all the leaks where we were possibly losing time, things were getting missed, that we needed to then systemize to create more time and create a better business that served our clients and a better quality of service.
And this was through like the task audit, identifying, you know, those tasks that you could potentially delegate to someone else. When did the change come about? Because I know we spoke like a little bit to and fro with you guys in the beginning around, hey, like you really need to change your model and your service offering. This is what we kind of recommend, and be okay to let go of current clients if they're not wanting to come on board. Like, when was that solidified, that change in actual structure to where it's like, yes, this is what we're doing and this is what we're focusing our time on now?
I think
We've rebranded.
The hardest part for me was we needed to rebrand. That was a separate issue, but it actually ended up being a bonus. But letting go of clients I'd looked after for a long time because they really weren't going to progress. We knew they weren't going to progress. And then when we decided to rebrand, we were looking at something that would leave that identity behind and give us the chance to start with new ideas and no preconceived, like Tax After Hours was my previous name, but it meant people expected to talk to you at 11 o'clock at night. They expected to talk to you.
No offense, but that's the worst. That is the worst name to condition your clients. It's like, hey, I have no life. Yeah. Call me any day of the week, any time of the day, and I'll
Sunday.
I was having people rock up at my front doorstep Sunday, 7 a.m.
Yeah.
So once we decided that model didn't suit what we needed.
You could have called it 12 to 2 tax return.
Yeah.
We can do that now, but I don't think that's what we want either.
Yeah. So, like, what challenges did you come up with inside yourselves, like, over the past 12 months? Like, what challenge have you noticed coming up inside? I know there's been a thing recently. We'll get to that in a second. But what challenges have you guys come up with personally through this journey?
Letting go. Actually accepting that what we had is not what we're going to be embracing. I posted something recently about how a shark can grow to 8 inches if it's in a shark tank. That's only a fishbowl. But if you put it in the sea, it can grow to whatever destiny length it's supposed to grow to. And I think we had ourselves in that fishbowl, and then we took the fishbowl away, and now we're just letting the right size find us.
I think a lot of the stuff for me as well, I'm such a control freak. So for me to let go and try and let the systems do what they're allowed to do, and try and let my staff do their thing, and me be trusting so that I'm not in the office as much, has been really hard for me.
And in some ways that backfired too, because we learned a lot. We'll just have we learned a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things
let's talk about some of the challenges and the opportunity you guys have had to learn, because let's be honest, business is always going to have its problems. They never go away. It doesn't matter how much you systemize or what staff you hire or how good your marketing is. Like, you're still going to have challenges, and it's more about who you become during those experiences that you know you can take on anything and actually seek them rather than kind of run from it. And one of the interviews that I had earlier today as well was talking around, you know, like the worst thing that could happen is you feel like everything's okay in business and everything's going great, because that's when the biggest red flag is that you're actually taking your eye off the ball and something's about to knock you off. So what have been some of the growth opportunities that you guys have been presented with over the last 12 months through, you know, letting go of being a control freak, putting systems in place, rebranding, changing your name, changing your offering, charging more money, getting rid of old clients, all that sort of stuff? Like, what have been some of the big things that have struck you guys along the way?
Taking on the major client that didn't really work out. That was a huge one.
Yeah.
Because the client themselves had their heads in the clouds, and every time we really onboarded much better after that, because the questions that we didn't ask would possibly have revealed they were in layer upon layer of debt, which they did not disclose, and they had crazy plans. They wanted to start a business and go and get impregnated with twins in South Africa at the same time, and that was going to work. There were so many red flags there that we hadn't worked out how to bring to the surface, but that was a huge learning curve. And I learned a lot from Vanessa for that, because she set boundaries. I've never been good with boundaries, And she said, no, they're not running how this office works. We are, and we won't be discussing anything with them before 10 a.m. And if they want to send us 7 emails between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m., we'll answer them when we get to them. So there were so many different steps of discipline, of learning, of boundaries, and of then working out whether a client is actually going to fly or not. That was a big one.
Well,
and I said, Edie, remember what...
Sorry, I was just going to say, like, we train our environment how to treat us.
That's exactly right.
You pick the phone up at 6 a.m. in the morning, you're giving the okay signal to pick the phone up at 6 a.m. in the morning.
That's what Vanessa was teaching me, because she said, no, we're not doing that. And I'm thinking, but tax after hours, it's not tax after hours anymore. So yes, we could start our new identity, we could start new rules, we could start a whole different pattern of how we work.
Yeah, what were you going to say, Vanessa?
Exactly what you said. I kept saying to her, remember what Michael says, you teach your clients how to treat you. And I book out Thursday mornings between 11 and 12:30, so no appointments can be booked in because it's shirt time.
Yeah.
And this client...
That's an interesting thing. We have a number of clients, no doubt many that are watching this either today live or in the training portal as well, that say they can't get to the calls. And the reality is it's not they can't get to the calls, it's that they're not prioritizing the calls. Like, you know, we could have many time of the day and we'll still have people say, oh, I can't get to the calls, they're not convenient. And, you know, maybe not every week, but at least once a fortnight, once a month, if you choose to prioritize them. Because, you know, as we have in one of our big banners, you either find a way or you find an excuse.
Yeah. We have an open office, which means everyone's desks are in the same room. So we book out the whole office and everyone has to listen to Shirt whether they're in on the call or not. So I booked this time out and this client rocked up without an appointment. And I said to Edie, tell them they haven't got an appointment, so they can't come in right now because we're booked. And Edie went downstairs and still had the appointment with them at the bottom of the stairs. And when she came back up, I said, that's not cool. You've just pretty much told them that they can do whatever they like and they're not the ones running this office. We are.
Ooh. So
that was a learning.
Impacted, like that is some significant boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Like kudos to you. How has that affected the way that you guys operate business now, having those firm boundaries in place?
Great. The clients have more respect.
The clients have got an allocated time, and if they don't use that time, they don't get another one, because otherwise they just always do, oh, I was running 10 minutes late, or I was, you know, I couldn't take your call or whatever. If you've made a time to make that call, well, we've made the time and here's the result. I don't get another face-to-face with you until the next call that's been appointed.
We've implemented a new system, which is if they miss their appointment time, we'll do a Zoom without them, video record the Zoom and send it to them like they were sitting here, so they've got the information that we're going to give them. If they didn't make their appointment, they've still got it and they still get billed for the time.
I love that. This is where I see a lot of business owners come from that scarcity mindset that, oh no, but you know, I don't want to lose this client, or this client's paying me. And the moment that you start to take on board those biases, you're unconsciously programming the environment to treat you that way. And you'll get more and more and more clients that show up that take that from you. Like, we don't see the world the way the world is. We see the world the way that we are. And if we allow these things to encroach on our boundaries, before we know it, we have no boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you now? And what has been the biggest impact for you guys as a result of that?
I think using the technologies, all of those technologies I talked about, incorporating those really opened up our world to the fact that we can quantify, multiply our time and how we use it. And then we have also done the traditional adding staff to free up Vanessa's time. And we found that we did that the wrong way. But it was still a very necessary learning curve, I think.
What sort of technologies have you guys implemented that have saved that time?
We use Zoom a lot.
Yeah.
Which we never used before.
And cuts out a lot of travelling time.
Yeah.
So I can't remember the last time I've travelled to a client.
Got it. Yeah.
So that quantify, it means that all of that extra travel time is now billable time, not rubbish. And we've also got our carbon is tracing all of our emails and tracking a lot of our communications and job flows, so we don't miss things nearly as easily as we would have previously.
Only checking emails twice a day, so I'm not putting out spot fires all the time.
Yeah.
And the receipt bank component meant that our auditing, we still have had a couple of issues with the auditors saying, we're still watching your clients and we want this documented to this level. And with Receipt Bank, the last audit, we flew through it because Vanessa had absolutely everything. The client was aware that if they made those claims, they would be audited because we could warn them. And then when the audit happened, they had the audit insurance, so that our work was then paid for and everything was documented and the auditor was totally 100% happy. And that did not happen last year, and it was a very painful learning curve. So I'm very impressed with how that worked. So Receipt Bank, go Receipt Bank.
Yeah, Receipt Bank's amazing. So let's talk about staff. Let's have a chat.
Go there.
Let's have a chat about staff. So we got a chance to catch up a few weeks ago and have a drink, and I know that you guys were. And let's not, for confidentiality reasons, let's not divulge names and things like that. This is more so like the lessons and the extraction that we can take from not just that experience with that particular past employee, but your journey with staff in general. Like you guys obviously went from being like a two-woman band, working all hours, literally working. Like, isn't that ironic to go back and look at what you're working and what your business name was and see that there's complete synergies compared to what your business name is called now and the state of your business and the state of your cash flow and the state of your clients. Like, it's not uncanny that our thoughts are creative and, where our focus goes, our energy flows and our results show. What's your journey been like with staff? Like, systemization was something you guys started with early on. Tell us about staff.
So we had our first hire in February.
Yeah.
And we hired her as a practice manager, full-time employee on a salary.
Yeah.
Then we were just 3 people, which we had been for a while. I was very trusting in that, and I obviously let the guard down, thinking that everything was running really smoothly. We were probably not on top of things as much as what we should have been.
We weren't on the same page, and I think that's been the biggest problem for me because we both had a different view on what our employee was doing. But just having an employee in the room,
I'm sure they probably had a different view on what they were doing as well. It wasn't just you two.
Yeah.
But the other thing was that just having that third person in the room changed the dynamic with us. And I don't think I fully appreciated that until this week when we've both, I've been injured this week and I've missed a day, but we've been smashing it out of the park because we've been concentrating on what we needed to do, not concentrating what the third party in the room. And I didn't realise how much that was draining us, our focus away from what we needed. And the other part of the story there was that one of us had a relationship with our former employee beforehand, and that we thought we'd negotiated that if things didn't go well, we had it sorted and that everybody would be grown up about it and it would just, life would go on. That's not how it's turned out. And that's been a painful exercise both for our employee and for ourselves because we never went into that arrangement with any concept that it would go toxic. But having gone there, I think if we'd have been able to communicate better, I always think that the problem's top down. I think that the employee was not the problem. We didn't do it right. And that's the learning. We just need to make sure that we learn from it.
That's huge onus on you guys to take responsibility. I'm curious, like with everyone else on the call live today, how many of you guys have had a less than desirable experience with employees? And I'd love to know if you want to jump in the chat and let us know what you learned from that as well. So I completely agree. Like if I look back at my personal journey of hiring staff, the way that I go about like recruiting, hiring, onboarding, training, retaining, offboarding now is so different than what it was 10, 15, 18 years ago. And I'll never forget the first employee that I had to let go. Like I'll never forget that feeling of it was like having to break up with someone.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
That same,
And
I
that
felt
same,
like I divorced my husband.
yeah. And it's like, once you rip the Band-Aid off, it's so much better, but ripping the Band-Aid off and the carry on and everything else that goes on is
brutal.
What were the key things you learned? So like let's get more specific, because you can go, oh yeah, we're at cause. Great. We take responsibility, leaders top down. What were some specific things that you've learned or you're learning through this process that might be of value to the rest of the guys watching this?
If Edie and I had have got on the same page quicker and we had have listened to each other, it's that 6699 scenario. Edie was seeing it one way and I was seeing it another way, and we weren't communicating effectively to see it from each other's point of view. So we were just bashing heads as two directors, trying to make a final decision, weren't on the same page. So this probably prolonged it a month longer than it should have.
A month more.
I was going to say, like every single staff member I've let go of, I've looked back and gone, like that was 2 months, 3 months overdue. Like they should have.
Easy.
And it typically worked out worse than if they had have just gone when I first felt to move them on.
Yeah.
By keeping them around because they didn't want to hurt their feelings or because they might change.
Yep.
Yeah. And I remember that a mindset webinar that we did with you, Barry, you said to grow a successful business, you must be prepared to lose something. And I wrote down on my piece of paper, I'm prepared to lose a family member or something, but I never ever in my wildest dreams thought that I would lose a best friend or a house or anything along those lines. But I guess when you're trying to grow a business, what are those material things in life?
Yeah.
You can always get another house, The meaning of a friend is someone who'll be there regardless and understand any decision that's needed. And so maybe that friend wasn't really a friend after all. So is it that big of a loss?
Yeah, maybe, but don't look too far away as well. Like, we could make a whole bunch of judgments now, yet none of that changes the outcome, right? And we can't change how that person or persons ever respond. What we can change is us. And, if I look at my own experience, like I had to let go of my brother at one stage. I let go of like close friends, and I've had both the toxic experiences and the great ones. And, recently over the past 12, 18 months, they've all been somewhat good experiences, like there's nothing has come back like it used to in the early days. And what I found in my approach, I found an approach that works quite well, which is actually sitting them down and saying, hey, like, where are you at? Like, are you happy? Are you actually, do you feel that you're actually fulfilling your role here at the company? And really having a conversation with them from a place of love, rather than like, oh, there's a performance issue, like questioning where they're at. Because I honestly believe that employees know, like if you've made a decision that someone's not cutting the bill, they start to feel that, and they know that that's there sitting in the system, whether it's consciously or not. And having a conversation like that allows it to be brought through to the conscious, and it's vulnerability, right? As opposed to getting to the end where it's like, see you later. And then all of a sudden they're shocked and awed. And then the battle axes come out.
Yeah.
I had staff previously several years ago, and I didn't think much of that experience then. I decided that it wasn't my forte to manage staff, and so that's one of the reasons why I put more of that onto Vanessa. And I still take responsibility for that decision because it was wrong. Vanessa wasn't ready for it, and Vanessa had too close an alliance with this lady anyway, so we still should have been doing that together. But there were so many learnings from that.
Yeah.
The company is stronger.
A couple of guys here. Vicky, learn a lot about ownership, boundary setting, and communication. Pete as well. Has staff with poisonous and she got rid of them quicker. Like, and you guys mentioned before as well, like one poisonous staff member, it's kind of like, excuse my maybe poor judgment of analogy, but it's like cancer. right? Like one tumor in the body can have a massive effect on the way the whole entire system works. And it's the same with having a staff member that's poisonous or a staff member that's poor performing. It can bring the whole entire organization down.
Exactly.
To a level where you don't necessarily know what's going on until that person's removed. There's a sense of relief and everything kind of restores again. Pete says, scared that clients she worked on would leave worth 15K plus, but at the end of the day, I needed to trust they hear as a result of the company, not the individual. I think on the same page. Yeah, it's like, yeah, what happens if I let this staff member go and they take half the clients with them? Yeah. Jess, if we open time and space to have a real conversation, we walk through the door together. Yep, totally, Steve. One poisonous, one costs me 3 others. That's another great point as well. Like, if you have these A-grade players that are seeing one person be acceptable to the standard, it's potential that they're going to leave as well. They're going to get frustrated. They're going to feel like they're being mistreated, or they're going to lower their standard to meet where that C-grade player is.
And I've done that in the past. That was a lesson I learned when I was running a childcare centre. I had, it wasn't actually a staff member, it was a client, and I changed the rules for that client, and the staff basically said, that's crazy. They're not pulling their weight as a client, and you're allowing other people to drop our standards. So that was actually quite valuable feedback.
The thing we need to look out for is actually not the C grade staff members. It's the B grade staff members, which I've shared before to our members. Is that, you know, the C grade staff members, it's very clear and obvious that they're not pulling their weight. So the radar's on. It's the B grade staff members that kind of fly under the radar. Like, they do just enough to not really have any alerts go off, but not enough to really keep the business moving forwards. And it's the B grade players that will actually cost you business the most in the long term, because they're most of the time they're undetected. And you know, for me, this is why, like, I kind of work on the analogy of hire slow and fire fast. Yeah, once you determine that someone's got to go and yeah, they've been through a bit of performance period, just rip the band-aid off. Yet be okay to hire slow. And the reason being is we went through a period where we kind of hired fast. I'm like, oh, if they don't work out, we can just move them on. But there's a significant cost to the culture when your team has new team members come in, that they onboard, they're happy and excited, they're coming in and they're sharing responsibilities, and all of a sudden they're back out again. Now, although they understand this person wasn't necessarily a right fit, there is a cultural cost and an energetic cost to the organization by having those people come in and out so often.
I think that's why we were slow to get to solve the problem, because we had actually done that exciting bonding thing. It was quite hard once we recognised it. Like, once I actually saw what Vanessa was saying, and that it was economic rather than personality rather than personal, I could see that there was no choice. Before that, I wasn't seeing that economic reality, and I thought it was a completely different problem. So we
first in order to solve a problem, we first must understand what problem we're solving. And once we understand what problem we're solving, it's 90% of the way solved already. It's just often we don't take long enough to work out what the problem is we're actually trying to solve.
Well, then Vanessa said, well, thank you for being, having my back. This week's been really awful, but it's been much easier because we've been doing it together. And as soon as I realised that what the problem was, there was no other way to do it. It had to happen. And so that's when we started to see that together we move forward.
Yeah. What do you think are your kind of top 3 takeaways of how you've managed to get the results you've got? As I said, like, you've tripled, possibly even 4x now, your revenue the past 12 months. Significantly taking your average sale from $430 odd to $24,000 now, which is just extraordinary. Got a ton of time back, systemized, brought staff in, like a huge achievement in a relatively short period of time. What do you think, and happy for you guys to answer 3 each, what are the 3 kind of key factors do you believe that's made that happen?
With having one client worth $24,000, you've obviously got to put a lot more time into that client, but just think about how many that makes way for. You can get rid of 50 clients to do that. And then you've got all your focus in where it needs to be, instead of like whenever you take on, it's like when you have one child versus two childs versus three childs. Now 1 + 1 + 1, it's 1 multiplied by, and the factor of variables is so much bigger. If you're only concentrating on one set of business issues rather than 25 that you've managed to replace, then you do your job better because your focus is better. Your grasp of the situation is much more comprehensive, and we had not really looked at doing it that way before. So for us, it was once we got the picture, we were quite able to embrace it.
First things
I feel
first,
like
second.
they're restructuring the pricing, working off packages rather than hourly rate.
Yeah,
that's been a major change.
That made it impersonal.
Yeah, well, it's pretty hard to build a skyscraper on a dodgy foundation, right?
Yeah. Also the systems, so systemizing to make our daily flow a little bit better.
And consistent.
So each client that's onboarded now is onboarded in the same way, which makes our job easier because it's routine.
Yeah, fantastic.
And I think that the value for money, as soon as we realised what we were giving in our service, and what actually that could mean to the client, it stopped being hard to charge for it because we were investment, we weren't cost.
Yeah.
And that's a major difference. And it's like when we've now, instead of having an employee, we've got subcontractors. They're part of our cost package. And it's much easier to hire them for the whatever number of hours because they're directly rewarding us with multiplication on their work.
Because business is more predictable because you've got fixed cost of sales.
Exactly.
Okay, so three things. First thing first, second thing second, third thing third. Second thing is about building the solid foundation in terms of your pricing and getting your model right before you look to scale. And the third thing is then building in systems so there's a repeatable process of how you're onboarding clients and how you're working with clients moving forwards. And the thing that I'd probably say too is there's obviously been a significant shift and an ongoing shift around your mindset as well, to go from obviously where you were, which is like, what? Like we can make more money and work less hours. Like, how's that even possible? To being where you're at now. And as I said, like a relatively short period of time, you've been willing to show up and make those shifts internally and have the discipline and dedication to show up to the Sherps and so forth as well.
Yeah. I've been suggesting to Vanessa that we could work 5 hours a week. And she's just got to get her mindset around that. She hasn't quite got there yet.
I'm still over the fact that we're taking home more than $150 a week each. So I'm still like working past that.
I'll never forget one of the intensive events where you said to me, Barry, like I'm making all this money, like what do I do with it? Because you were still conditioned to live on what you'd been making, obviously, you know, a year or so ago. That you're like, what do I do with all this extra money now?
That's profit first. You put it in the bank.
I still just bank it. I don't use it.
Yeah, bank it, invest it.
It's there.
I still live the same way. I'm buying a block of land now, which I never thought I'd be able to do, which is awesome.
So good. Huge congratulations to you both. If you're in a position that many of our clients were before joining us, which is that your business is controlling you rather than you controlling your business, we would love to have a chat to you to see whether or not we might be the right fit to partner with you to help you grow and succeed in business. And over the past 8 years, we've helped hundreds of business owners around the world to grow, scale, and succeed in business. Many of our clients report that we've helped them to triple their profits and double their time off in 12 months or less. If you jump onto YouTube and notice the hundreds of testimonies, you'd see that this is a common theme amongst them. If you're a business owner that's generating more than $300,000 a year in annual revenue, whether it's $500 million, $5 million, even $10 million a year, and you're looking to take your business and your life to the next level, we might be able to help. If you're noticing that your business is lacking structure, maybe systems or processes, maybe you're not quite attracting enough or the right type of quality leads, making enough sales, or maybe you're even having issues finding, hiring, retaining, and training the right team members, we could be a fit for you. Ultimately, we believe that we never have business problems, we have personal problems that are expressed through our business. And a lot of the work we do is with you as a business owner, helping you to constantly upgrade the way that you see life, the way that you make decisions, and the way that you help construct a profitable and purpose-driven business. In order for us to do that though, you need to book in a quick
15-minute application call with one of our scaling specialists here at the Game Changers. Through that 15-minute call, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions to see if or how we might better help you. If we can't help you, we'll let you know politely and do our best to point in the direction of someone that can. However, if we can help you, we'll look at booking you a 1-hour game plan session where we're going to dive a lot deeper into where you and your business are at right now, where it is that you want to go in the next 3, 5, and 10 years' time, and what are the potential roadblocks or challenges or even opportunities that are along the journey in order for you to get there faster. If you're really feeling that it's time for you to experience the love and the joy of running a business again, if you're really wanting to experience a business that does actually operate without you while still producing profit, we may very well be the right fit. So book in a 15-minute call, we can have a chat and see where we go from there. My name is Vanessa and Edie, and thanks for listening. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk soon.